Let's talk about the concept of silent lunch as a disciplinary tool in K-12, specifically K-5 settings. The idea behind this is some schools across the country are still utilizing this as a consequence for poor behavior in the classroom. So you have a student or a group of students who are talking when they're not supposed to be talking, or they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing, right? It happens. And the teacher says, okay, because you're doing this, the whole class is going to have silent lunch when we go to lunch today. The poor behavior is happening in the classroom, but now I'm silencing you for, 20 minutes, however long their lunch is when you go to lunch, taking away the opportunity that they have to engage with their friends, to learn social emotional learning skills. We focus a lot on SEL, and yet we're taking this opportunity away, one of the very few that they have throughout the day between their different classes and their specialty classes. Even when they go to PE, they might be moving, which is great, but they're still listening to their PE teacher. They still have a structured lesson plan. This is really their only unstructured time to be able to learn how to have a conversation with friends and peers. And even at recess, maybe they're having a conversation, but most of them are running around, getting their energy out as they should. And that is just as important. So this 15, 20-minute time they have during the day is key to their social development as young people, which will impact them as they grow, into teenagers and into adults as they grow older. So what is something else that could happen here? First of all, many schools have done away with the idea of silent lunch, realizing after study, research shows this is ineffective and actually damaging and harmful to young developing minds who are learning how to socialize. Not only that, but quite frankly, it's sad. It's sad to walk into a quiet lunchroom with 100, 150 children sitting silently at a lunch table. You want to hear laughter, you want to hear giggles, you want to hear them talking about their day. That is part of going to school. That is part of being in a social environment, in a social public setting. The other thing to this is there's a difference between children getting too loud in the lunchroom and asking them to quiet down, which absolutely happens and needs to happen sometimes. Those lunchrooms get loud, rather than planning to go to silent lunch because somebody wasn't listening or somebody was doing something they shouldn't have in the classroom. So as we move forward and you're working with schools to maybe still implement this, let's talk about some professional development ideas that could be offered as an alternative to silent lunch. How can we deal with a child or a group of children who aren't listening, are not doing what they're supposed to be doing in the classroom without ruining lunch for the entire class or sometimes the entire grade? That is supposed to be a shining moment in their day where they eat their lunch and talk with their friends. And really, at the end of the day, yes, we are teaching academic courses, but we are also raising young minds, kind and compassionate people who need to learn how to socialize with each other. That is just as important too.